and welcome to Man Crush Monday. I am Maria Konrad. I'm here on behalf of Só Dança and their new series, Barre Talk, which is really exciting for me because I get to talk to all these people and kind of dig deeper that I super respect and I love. And I have a very special guest today of Mr. Wes Chapman. Hello, Mr. Chapman.
Hey, Maria.
And where are you in quarantine?
I am quarantined in my house in Birmingham, Alabama.
Oh my goodness. Well, thank you for being here for my Man Crush Monday. Yes, you always make me smile. We always laugh. I always like to start with where you started from. So where did you grow up, Wes?
I grew up in a small town in South Alabama called Union Springs, Alabama.
Okay, so how does a boy from Union Springs, Alabama end up in New York?
Well, it's a really long story, but the short version is I started dancing when I was 9 years old at Montgomery School of Ballet. My mom and my grandmother were very, very encouraging in terms of that. And it was through a federal program called the Impact Project, which was back in the 70s. And it served the 10 most deprived counties in the country for artistic and social impact and economic impact. That were, the poorest. And our county benefited from that. And we had a lot of teachers that came through Union Springs, Alabama, through the school system. And the dance teacher said to my grandmother one day, who was the elementary school principal, see if Wes likes ballet when he gets a little older. And that's how it all began.
Oh, you know what? That is such a beautiful story to tell, because in this time, programs like that are being cut and cut and cut. And to see like firsthand and to hear like, no, this is how I started. It wasn't at a big like fancy school that you were snatched up and the whole thing. I think that that's really, really important.
It is, and I have spent time in Washington talking about that story to advocate for the arts, for funding back in the 90s when I was a principal dancer at ABT.
That's amazing.
Yeah, those were good times, yeah.
Okay, so how old were you when you left Alabama? And how did that happen?
Well, from Montgomery, when I was in ballet school there, I went to Alabama School of Fine Arts, which is the second oldest high school for the arts in the country, public high school for the arts, and next to North Carolina School of the Arts. I graduated from there in 1983, and I joined American Ballet Theater in 1984 upon the invitation of Mikhail Baryshnikov. Oh. And I auditioned for the company the day that he asked me if I would join that same day. And I said, well, can I call my mom? And he goes, yeah, you can call your mom. And she told me on the telephone, she says, you can't join the company today because you've got to come home and move to New York and ask him if you can start next week.
Okay.
And I was like, Mom, I can't say that to Baryshnikov. She says, get over there and tell him that your mother said you cannot start yet and that you can start next week. And I went back and told him, and he laughed, and he said that was fun.
Oh my gosh. And so where did you live when you first moved to New York City?
I lived with a Alabama School of Fine Arts graduate friend of mine that had moved to New York in the theater arts department, and he already had a place there. So I crashed with him for the first 6 weeks, and then we got a bigger place later on once we got more established.
Oh my gosh, that is so amazing. See, I love a good origin story of all my superheroes in dance because, like we just don't take the time to really be able to talk, and I think that's one of the best things that's come out of quarantine and Zoom right now, or these conversations. And I'm so happy that Só Dança has really supported that, in the artists of doing that. So I'm very thrilled. Okay, this is the 20-question speed round. Are you ready?
Okay.
Okay. Here we go.
Okay. So one word answers. Here we go.
Yep. Here we go. 20-question speed round with Wes Chapman, and we begin. Bourneville or petit pas?
Petit pas.
Gumbo or shrimp and grits?
Shrimp and grits.
Barbecue or tacos?
Barbecue.
Dogs or cats?
Dogs.
University of Alabama or University of Tennessee?
University of Alabama.
How did I know that one?
Roll Tide.
London or Paris?
London.
Swan Lake or Sleeping Beauty?
Swan Lake.
Grand Allegro or Pirouettes?
Pirouettes.
Designing Women or Golden Girls?
Both.
Okay, this is a hard one. Nureyev or Valela?
Nuria.
Sophia Loren or Audrey Hepburn?
Sophia.
Oh, I love. Turning Point or The Red Shoes?
Turning Point.
Jazz or blues?
Jazz.
Snickers or Twix?
Twix.
Gym or Pilates?
Gym.
This is a question for only a Southern boy. Are you ready? Duke's mayonnaise or Hellman's?
Hellman's.
Okay, you survived. You did it. Go, Wes. Okay.
Yay.
All right. So this next segment that we have, we do 10 questions in 10 minutes. And we just want to kind of hear about your life and questions that I have about you.
Okay.
Okay. So here we go. What do you love most about ballet?
You know, the theatrics of dancing, getting prepared for a role, the hair, the makeup, the orchestra, the anticipation, the nerves, sort of all of the prep stuff. Of course, the actual dancing part is wonderful, but the ritual of it is what I love the most.
You know, and I don't think people think about that enough. I mean, dancing comes from the Greeks, right? Like from the original people, Dionysus, the gods, you know, the ritual of all of that, you know, it's a beautiful thing. Okay. What do dancers need to possess to have a long career? Because you had a long career.
Well, determination is probably the top thing in my world. And determination linked with talent and ability. And you see so many dancers that have so much ability, and you see this as a teacher in choreography, that don't really care. They're not really into it, and they never make it. But then you turn around and you look at those ones that want it more than the others, the determination part, the passion part.
Yeah.
And they tend to go further than the ones that have everything that don't care. Now, the key is getting the talent and the determination and passion to go together. And I'm one of those people that I was lucky enough to have all of that. And so I always model my success for the kids so that they have an example of, if you have everything, it's going to go a lot better. But if you have the determination, it will go better, period.
I always think that with talent, it's what you do with your lack of ability. That's true talent, is like what you're able to do with what's not perfect and bring it along with you. Right. You know, I think that that's really important. I love that. And determination, I think is the best thing ever. You know, like that's what you just have to be all the way in. You have to be all in. You know?
The game changer is the talent and the determination together.
Yeah, I agree. Okay. Who was your most influential teacher? Could be a dance teacher or outside. Who taught you the most?
You know, there was a lot of people. At Alabama School of Fine Arts, Dame Sonia Orova was probably my most influential teacher in my formative years. But in my professional years, I spent a lot of time with David Howard and him coaching me privately. And I learned a great deal as a professional dancer about technique and artistry through David. And he is sorely missed by so many dancers, but also by the dance field. We miss David tremendously.
No, I agree. I think that was a magical time that people, like, I can't understand in New York, of Jarvosh and Howard and, you know what I mean, all in the same area. Mr. Berman, you know, who recently left us, you know, I wish I was there for that time to be a fly on the wall, you know, in those classes.
You know, that was a great time. And when I got to New York in 1984, all those people were really full on. Yeah. And I just took all that for granted. I just thought that's the way life was. And now we know that's not the case.
It is not like that. Okay. What is your favorite experience that ballet afforded you?
Well, dancing for ABT for 13 years took me around the globe.
Yeah.
And had I been, not a dancer in South Alabama, I would probably work at a gas station or something like that. And I never would have seen Asia or South America or Europe or any of the rest of the world.
Do you have a favorite? Do you have a favorite place in the world that you love?
One of my favorite cities in the world is Rome.
Oh, I was supposed to be in Rome all month this month, teaching, traveling, and I've been talking about it for a year, and my boyfriend and I have planned a trip, and of course now we're in quarantine, but Rome is a magical place.
It is.
The people are magical. The food is magical. It's like you eat it and you don't gain weight. Like, it's just a magical place. I agree. Oh, Wes, I love it. I love it. I love it. Okay. Mr. Chapman, aside from dance, do you have any other passions?
I do. Since we've been on lockdown, I've spent a lot of time on my garden. I love gardening. I love flowers. My family was in the plant business.
Okay.
And still are. And so I grew up with all of that. My other passion is college football. I love college football. And being from Alabama, I love University of Alabama football. And with the great success that Alabama football has had over the past 12 or 13 years has made it a lot more fun.
I think one of my favorite photos of you was you teaching at the Royal with your Bama hat on.
We had won. Well, we had won the national championship that year. And so I was, being very proud and trying to teach the Brits about Alabama football. And I tell a story of walking through the streets of London after a class at the Royal Opera House, and I saw a fellow in the distance coming towards me that had an Alabama football hat on. And I had mine on, and he saw me, and as we slowly meet towards each other, we said under our breath, "Roll Tide." And we just kept walking. It was such a great moment.
I love football too. I'm not a college football fan, and I will forever, be holding on to the 1970s win of the Miami Dolphins. And
I love the Dolphins. I love the Dolphins. We love the Dolphins.
I'm a Dolphins girl all the way.
Really
okay.
Good.
I think that this is something really important. As much as we want to reach young dancers, I think that a lot of dancers that are in their careers would love an answer to this question. What was it like transitioning from a dancer to a teacher? Is teaching something you always wanted to do, or is it something kind of just fell in your lap, or, how did that happen?
Yeah, the day that I just made the decision I wanted to retire from dancing at ABT, this is really bizarre. Literally the minute that I just said that I let go in my heart of I need to now move on into other parts of the dance world, phone rang in my apartment in New York, and it was Alabama Ballet, which I had come from, and here in Birmingham. And they said, "Hey, we're looking for an artistic director. Would you be interested?" And I'm not kidding, Maria. It was like the minute that I let go in my heart. And I said, well, as it turns out, I would be very interested. I flew to Birmingham. I interviewed for the job. They hired me. And I directed Alabama Ballet for 10 years. And it was so serendipitous and so fluid for me that I literally was a principal dancer one day, and the next day I was the artistic director of Alabama Ballet. Wow. And so many dancers have that same kind of story in terms of, it just happens overnight kind of thing. And as you know, there's no school for going to learn how to be a artistic director. So you kind of learn on your feet, which is a lot of work and a lot of nerves.
Well, I can see why you had such a long run there, because I think that the best thing that an artistic director can have is to be articulate and to be communicative, and I think that in a caring way,
right.
In a kind way. I always find, I always love working with people, because I'm an idea girl, but sometimes that's too much. But I love that people that say, I love your energy. We can't do that. No, thank you. Like very directly, you know? And I think you really possess that kindness, but also that directness. And I actually think people appreciate that a lot.
They do. They do. It's called leadership. You know,
Oh,
you
yes.
have to learn to be a leader as an artistic director, and if you don't, then you're typically not very successful at it.
No, I agree. Okay, what a beautiful statement, leadership. What are your, can you name, okay, Mr. Chapman, can you name a few of your favorite dancers and why?
I directed ABT2, which was an amazing time in my dance or my directing career. And during that time, I had some of the super ninjas of the dance world. I mean, it was crazy. I had this talent was incredible. One of them is Isaac Hernandez, who is at the English National Ballet. Gosh, he is incredible. I love this guy. Occasionally he'll text me and we'll say hello to each other. I love that. Another one is Seyoon Park, a Korean girl that was at ABT2 with me, and she is at the Paris Opera. She's incredible. She's done Swan Queen. She's amazing. And then one of the other ones is at the Royal Ballet named Megan Hinkes. And Megan is a soloist there and has just done so well and makes me so proud. And there are many others in that ABT2 arena, but I have such a close heart with them. And I feel like I was their ballet dad for a while.
Yeah.
And we traveled the world and did so many wonderful things and worked with choreographers, and they fouetted their heads off. And they were just amazing kids. And now they're adults and are leading the dance world. It makes me very proud.
Yeah, no, that's a beautiful feeling. And I think that's what I love about dance is that it's an oral tradition that's handed down that we can, you know, there's a responsibility to it. You know, there's a deep responsibility in that way. I love that. Okay. Who has been the most influential person in your family? Because I think this is important for us to recognize as dancers because we give up our families a lot for this art form, you know? And that's why I think this quarantine time is actually beautiful for a lot of young dancers because it gives them this period of time that they get with their family before they go back out on the journey again. And I think if that's one thing I could do over, I would probably miss a few like less graduations or weddings or, you know what I mean, for the art form.
Yeah, you know, that's a tricky one because so many people in my family were very supportive. My mom and dad were incredible and traveled the world to see me dance. But I think my grandmother, my mom's mother, who was the elementary school principal, she really took me under her wing in the sense of making sure I got to ballet class.
Yes.
She traveled with me to New York to do summer intensives when I was a teenager. And we had the most wonderful time. And I miss her every day.
Oh, yeah, no.
She's been dead for 20 years and I miss her every day.
Oh, that does not get easier. But what a beautiful homage. Oh, I love it.
Love her.
Thank you, Grandma, because we would not have Wes Chapman without you.
So, miss her every day.
Thank you. Oh my gosh, so beautiful. Okay. What is your perfect Saturday night?
Driving to Tuscaloosa to the football game. I love the energy of getting in the stadium in Tuscaloosa. It's 102,000. When there's that much togetherness and that much people on the same side, the energy is, you cannot replicate that kind of energy. And for me, a Saturday night in Tuscaloosa and with friends and that opportunity, they're so rare in life to have those opportunities. I love Saturday night and football.
Ah, that's such a good answer. I think that's so important because I think that dancers need to realize like you have to have, even if it's just that Saturday night, a point to step away completely and be a normal human because then you bring that humanity to the stage. You bring that, you know, and I think a lot of times as dancers, we don't, it's too obsessive inward And if we could open up our blinders a little bit and breathe and live like a normal human, I think it would be a little easier, you know?
That's a great point. I agree with you.
For all of us. Okay, we did that one. Okay, this is a hard one. And I know that many males get very weird about this.
Uh-oh.
Because you have to produce a name. Do you have a favorite partner you worked with? It can be more than one. You can name one.
Yeah. Oh, good. If it can be more than one.
Don't get offended.
All right. Well, let me show off a little bit. My generation of ABT is 80s and 90s, of course. So my most important partners, ballet partners, and I did all the leading roles with most of them. Amanda McKiro, Cynthia Harvey, Cheryl Yeager, Mariana Tchaikovsky.
Yeah.
Maybe those four were my most important partners. I danced with Amanda probably the most of all. Okay. And we did a lot of our first ballets in full lengths together. Swan Lake we did together as a first, both of us at the same time. So I share a lot with her, but I also learned so much from Cynthia Harvey. I mean, she was, you know, a well-established ballerina by the time I got to her. And I learned a lot from her as well as Mariana. And then, of course, Cheryl Yeager, you know, she's one of my favorite people in the world. So I just can't get enough of any of them.
Can you speak a little bit about how, just choose one or two about how they work? Like some of them, are they only work environment? Some of them, do they need you to be more like a friend in rehearsal? You know, I know that each woman works differently, you know?
Yeah, it's a personality thing. You know, Amanda was very internal and didn't talk a lot about what was going on for her artistically. We did have some conversation, but she was not very overt about that. That stuff came alive when she was on the stage.
Okay.
Somebody like Cheryl, for example, Cheryl Yeager was much more analytical. We talked a lot. We spent a lot of time socially together. We talked a lot about the roles. We talked a lot about partnering, what we needed to work on, how we fix this. But I was the kind of guy that always was like, oh, I'm sorry, that was my fault.
That's a good way to be.
And when you do that with the girls, they really like that. Because, gosh, I mean, if it hadn't been for you, I wouldn't have messed that up. So when you're like that, it goes a lot better. Right. And everybody wants to dance with you because you have that quality. But I also had that sort of innate ability to partner.
Right.
And a lot of people that don't have that really struggle with that. Yeah. And it's hard to teach that. So if you have that talent, the girls recognize it like that. They feel it right away. And then they really want you.
Yeah. I think a lot of it is just a general thing in life too. People want to be heard, right? Yeah. So I think that you are a good listener, and I think that that gives you that type of talent, right, you know, with that. And I think that boys a little bit, when they're partnering, especially in the ballet, they got to be therapists a little bit. You know, you got to be a little bit of a therapist of like, let me see where they are today, you know, like a little bit of that type of thing.
Definitely.
In there. Okay. We talked about your favorite place to travel. Okay. This is a really big question that I have for you. And I know you from both worlds, of course. I knew you, but so many dancers think that they must participate in competitions. And I kind of want to talk to you about things, the positive part of ballet competitions and what you feel are the negative, and what dancers should go into it thinking about, and talk about the competitions that you do work with and all of those things.
Yeah, I don't know if you know this, but I am the chairman of the jury for Universal Ballet Competition. Mm-hmm. And I've gotten really close with that group, and they do a great deal of good work, and I'm really proud of them. And I'm proud to be part of that company. The positives are getting the stage experience, but also working with your coaches and teachers and choreographers and getting more keen on your technique and your artistry. Also learning how to do a number kind of shot out of the cannon, because there's no like company class, you're not warming up, you're not in your own dressing room. You got to be able to just kind of get out there and bam and do it.
Yep.
That part, I think all of that is very valuable. And the negatives are when it becomes, obviously backbiting or anything of that nature in terms of that. Right. That's not character building, and I don't ever want to see a kid go there. Now, 99.9% of the kids that come to these competitions, I just adore them. If I get to talk to them, they're so sweet, they're so kind, and they're there for the right reasons. Right. So those negative people, I don't want to see that. I don't want to see the moms coming to the judge table going, "What are you, crazy?" and stuff like that. That stuff happens. It's bizarre.
I can't even believe it. My mom was so far from that. My mom was like, "Suck it up. Take it. I know nothing about dance. I'm going to drop you off and see you later."
And mine was too.
And that's it. Life is not fair. Dance is not going to be fair. I'm out.
Yeah, get in there and go hard, buddy. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. No. I think that's, and the other thing that I think that you touched on in the very beginning, which is so important, is I like to tell dancers that are competing, your competition is over the minute you arrive in the building to compete. Because the point of the competition is to be coached, is to learn classical work, is to learn something new. And the competition is with yourself of how far did you come during that time, not what you produced on the stage. Because let's be honest, Mr. Chapman, like, how many performances did you walk off stage going, "I'm stellar"?
Yeah, and we're our own worst critics in that way. And that's another thing to think about is, be critical of yourself, but only to the point of where it helps you, not where it tears you apart.
I think that's beautiful. Beautiful, beautiful. Okay, guess what? We're at our last question.
That was it?
I know, our time is almost over. It went like that. So
dang it. Okay, well, I love seeing your face.
I love seeing your face. We need to do this more often. Okay, here we go. If you could give one piece of advice to young dancers, or part two of this question is, if you could give one piece of advice to your younger self that would have made your life a little bit easier as a dancer, what would it be?
Don't be so hard on yourself.
I feel
Enjoy it. Enjoy the moment more. And we don't do that as young people. I would give anything if I could go back and savor all those times that I danced at the Metropolitan Opera House, or the Paris Opera, or the Coliseum in London, or wherever, the Teatro Colón in Buenos Aires, and go back and soak it up. And we as young people don't think that way because we don't have the experience behind us. And now that I'm 55, which I can't believe.
I still think you're a young person.
Well, I do too, but I'm not, and not as young as I would like to be. But if I could go back and replay some of those things, because I've forgotten a lot of it, because I was so flippant and arrogant about it all. Because it was so normal to me to be in Paris one day and then fly to London and do a show there and then fly back to New York. I mean, it was
why do I have to do?
Who lives life like that? That's not real.
And
so to
now
go back,
we're at a time where you would die to go to Paris right now.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And to go back in time and reabsorb some of that stuff. So don't let your life pass by without smelling the roses.
Oh, so beautiful. I can't thank you enough. What a beautiful interview. So much advice, so much kindness. Thank you so much for being here today on Barre Talk on Man Crush Monday with Só Dança. We love you. Thank you so much. And Mr. Chapman, we are going to dance out. Are you ready? There we go. Come on, keep going.
My favorite song.
Here we go. Sit.
Roll.
Okay, thank you. You did it. Oh, you still got it.